The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. With the news at this time, I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good morning. First, the highlights. Today's nomination day for local government elections. The Working People's Alliance says division in the PNC is affecting the struggle to confront the governing People's Progressive Party. And in the region, across in Suriname, a group of Kenyans who were awaiting deportation have fled. And in Trinidad and Tobago, there has been a fight between rival gangs as that country prepares to host a two-day CARICOM symposium on crime being deemed a public health issue. Across in the North American diaspora, there was a fatal fire in Queens, New York, and in Canada, we hear that more teachers are being employed to help students across the province of Ontario improve their reading, writing, and math skills. The details of these and other stories in a moment.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now the news in detail. Today is nomination day for local government elections that are scheduled for June 12, but the spotlight is expected to be on the capital city, Georgetown, a stronghold for the People's National Congress Reform-led a Partnership for National Unity, APNU. The People's Progressive Party, PPP, has already vowed to go all out to secure more seats on the Georgetown City Council. The local government elections are being held to elect new councillors to the 70 neighborhood councils in the 10 towns. APNU has said that it would be contesting the elections in its strongholds to ensure it does not lose control of those areas. The Alliance for Change will not be contesting the June 12 elections in any of the local authority areas unless the names of deceased persons and immigrants are removed from the voters' list. The Working People's Alliance WPA says division in the People's National Congress Reform PNCR is affecting the struggle to confront the governing People's Progressive Party Civic. WPA Executive Member Takuma Gunseye offered that assessment at a public meeting held at the Plaisance Market Square last night. He says the absence of unity is not helping the struggle because the PNC is the major opposition party in Guyana. While PNCR leader Aubrey Norton has not openly admitted that he is facing factionalism inside his party, Executive Member Coretta MacDonald recently called for unity at a town hall meeting in New York. The WPA has been on a campaign calling for civil disobedience and detention in Guyana as part of a struggle to end the discrimination of Afro-Guyanese and the creation of a power-sharing model that will include representatives of the major parties in the executive. Several female entrepreneurs will be heading to the United States to participate in a 4-day Women in Business Trade Exchange program under the theme Advancing Women in Business. The event will be held from April 19 to April 22 in New Orleans and will be hosted by the Louisiana District Export Council Jones Walker LLP and Techniques International. Spokeswoman for the Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry Guyana, Anita Ramprasad, says this is the first Women in Business Trade Exchange. She says typically trade missions come from other countries into Guyana and they're hosted by the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, the United States Embassy, or through a government ministry. The Business Leadership Exchange is somewhat different, she says, as it focuses primarily on women and will afford them the opportunity to travel, sit, and experience a trade mission from a different perspective. Ms. Ramprasad said the women participating in the trade exchange represent various sectors, among them logistics, marketing, consultancy, and construction. Regionally, a group of Kenyans who was awaiting deportation from neighboring Suriname has fled. Star News reports that they were at the UN Adolf Pingel Airport awaiting a flight when they escaped. Authorities say they were in Suriname illegally and were detained at the airport awaiting their deportation. There is no idea how they managed to escape. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's trip to Beijing has made it clear that he is counting on China to revive the South American country's ailing industrial sector. His expectation comes as Brazil seeks to cushion the backlog of departing U.S. companies. After Lula met with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the weekend, Brazil's Finance Minister Fernando Haddad told reporters that the nations are planning a leap forward in their relationship. He says President Lula wants a policy of reindustrialization through direct investment out of China. Mr. Haddad added that Brazil also wants strong ties with the U.S., but noted with regret that recently some U.S. companies have decided to leave Brazil. Industrial policy is close to the heart of Lula, a former steel worker turned union leader. Decades later, he launched his bid for a third presidential term in the gritty suburbs of São Paulo outside a car factory. That area and the country is producing less and less manufactured goods. In Trinidad, a fight between rival gangs in which shots were fired and bottles thrown brought a party in a nightclub on Ariapita Avenue to a premature end during the early morning hours on Sunday. Trinidad Newsday reports that the mayhem caught on video, which was shared to social media, which quickly went viral, came mere hours before that country hosts a two-day CARICOM symposium on crime being deemed a public health issue. Officers found one man who had an open wound to the left side of his face. He was taken to hospital for medical treatment. Patrons at the club told the police that members of two rival city gangs had an argument on the pavement and began fighting and throwing glass bottles at each other. Police said shots were also fired when the members of one gang got to their car, which was parked nearby. There were no reports of anyone being injured by gunshots. In Antigua, Education Minister Darrell Matthew is hoping the Antigua and Barbuda Union of Teachers will withdraw its threat of industrial action for Monday's resumption of classes in public schools. He says the government has done all it can to do at this point to address the teachers' concerns, while the remaining issues continue to be given attention. Minister Matthews said ex gratia payments to all 34 eligible teachers have either been made or the teachers have indicated that they'll collect their checks next Monday. He also outlines major progress and upgrades for eligible teachers, the completion of lighting in the 14 priority schools identified by the Antigua and Barbuda Union of Teachers, while 159 checks for retroactive payments are available for a collection at the ministry. In the North American diaspora, an 82-year-old man died in a house fire in Queens early Sunday morning. Firefighters responded to the three-alarm blaze in a two-story home in Bayside at around 5:40 a.m. The New York Fire Department says the man was found in a second-floor bathroom and was pronounced dead at the scene. Officials said the cluttered home prevented and hindered Officials said the cluttered home hindered firefighters' ability to contain the flames and the smoke. The victim's identity has not been released. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Still in the United States, Pix 11 reports on Long Island. A series of alleged assaults have some Long Island parents fearing their children are unsafe as school resumes after spring break. Reports ranging from bullying to an alleged sexual assault have led to some high-profile lawsuits that are causing feelings of unease. The mother of a girl who was a victim of an alleged sexual assault filed a lawsuit against the Central Islip Union Free School District. She says that the high school failed to protect her daughter. Among those claims, the girl was told by her vice principal not to call her mother after the assault took place. The New York Police Department's highest-ranking uniformed officer, Chief of Department Jeffrey Mallory, abused his authority when he interfered in the 2021 arrest of a former colleague accused of menacing teenagers with a gun in Brooklyn. This is the determination of the Police Watchdog Civilian Complaint Review Board. The CCRB substantiated abuse of authority charges against Mallory and recommended that he face Command Discipline B, carrying a maximum penalty of 10 docked vacation days. An attorney for the teenagers, M.K. Kashian, did not return an inquiry for a comment. Charging such a high-ranking official with official misconduct is exceedingly rare, speaking to the breadth of evidence against Mallory. Final disciplinary authority rests with Police Commissioner Keishan Sewell, who has continued a long-standing trend of bucking CCRB recommendations in a majority of misconduct cases. In Canada, the Ontario government is investing more than 180 million Canadian dollars to help students across the province improve their reading, writing, and math skills. Education Minister Stephen Lease says this is aimed at helping children master their foundational skills. He says this is in response to parents who say they want their children's school to focus on the fundamentals, improving reading, writing, and math. Lease went on to say that in Ontario and everywhere in the industrialized world, too many children are falling behind. In Ontario, Lease said Education Equality and Accountability Office's data shows there are schools that have consistently underperformed in fundamental skills. Notably, the investment will bring on 1,000 more educators, 300 educators to support math, and 700 to help with literacy development. When it comes to math specifically, Lease said the province would be investing more than $71 million in the 2023-2024 school year for this new plan, which supports Ontario's mandated financial literacy and coding in all grades. The minister said they intend to double the number of school math teacher coaches in classrooms who direct hands and support to both teacher and to students in classrooms that are falling behind. And now we go to the BBC World Service for the latest bulletin of international news.
Hello, I'm Emily Thomas with the BBC News. A court in Russia has sentenced one of President Putin's most prominent critics to 25 years imprisonment on charges widely seen as politically motivated. The journalist and opposition activist Vladimir Kara-Murza was arrested last year, accused of treason and spreading false information. Here's the BBC's Olga Evshina.
Vladimir Kara-Murza is a very influential figure in the Russian opposition. At the same time, he's not extremely popular or well-known inside Russia due to the way Russian state TV is organized. He wasn't allowed to appear on state TV. He wasn't ever mentioned on state TV that much. So for the majority of the Russian population, he's not that well-known, but he was very instrumental. He was very influential within the opposition. And I think it was very important that he was, unlike some of the opposition activists, he was trying to unite different fractions of Russian opposition.
Fighting is raging for a third day across Sudan as rival generals vie for power. People in the capital Khartoum say there are heavy gun battles and airstrikes in crowded residential neighbourhoods. The United Nations has condemned both sides for failing to stop fighting during an agreed humanitarian pause to evacuate the wounded. Doctors say about 100 civilians have been confirmed dead, although the true number is likely to be higher. The former Sudanese Foreign Minister Mariam al-Sadiq al-Mahdi is in Khartoum.
Things are very dire for the third day. Since the morning, no one slept because since the early hours of the morning, while people are praying overnight of these last 10 days of Ramadan, the air bombardment started around us, especially here in the northern part of the capital in Bahri. Also to the eastern part where the eastern Nile, and very bad thing that has been taking place clearly since yesterday. Whenever any of the fighting groups gets besieged, they get into the densely populated neighborhoods to take human shelter in the homes of the civilians.
Saudi Arabia is releasing more Yemeni detainees in a unilateral move that follows 3 days of prisoner exchanges, which saw almost 900 prisoners being released between the warring parties in Yemen's conflict. Sebastian Usher reports.
The International Committee of the Red Cross says that 104 detainees from Yemen will be flown from Abha in the south of Saudi Arabia to the Yemeni capital Sana'a and to the port of Aden. There were highly emotional scenes as families welcomed back fathers and sons they hadn't seen for years. These confidence-building measures are giving further momentum to efforts to secure a possibly permanent ceasefire in Yemen, as Saudi Arabia, which backs the government, and Iran, which supports the rebel Houthi movement, move to restore their diplomatic relations. It's raised hopes that an end to their proxy war in Yemen could be in sight.
BBC News. The authorities in Myanmar have pardoned more than 3,000 prisoners, including nearly 100 foreign citizens. A statement issued by the military leadership did not specify whether anti-government protesters or journalists who covered the coup 2 years ago would be among those released. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar said he was disappointed by the international community's failure to do more to protect Myanmar's civilian population.
The member states of the United Nations are failing the people of Myanmar by not having a coordinated, focused, strategic approach to this crisis. There are member states that continue to supply the junta with weapons, knowing full well that these weapons are being used to kill civilians. That is completely outrageous. The people of Myanmar ask me regularly, why is it that the world has taken such a coordinated response to the crisis in Ukraine, but not in Myanmar?
Tom Andrews speaking there. Slovakia has become the latest European country to place a temporary ban on agricultural imports from Ukraine. Similar restrictions were introduced over the weekend by Poland and Hungary, who say cheap Ukrainian foodstuffs are causing problems for local farmers. Poland also banned transit to other countries through its territory. The European Commission has rejected the unilateral bans as unacceptable. Tokyo has lodged a diplomatic protest with Moscow over Russian military exercises in the Sea of Japan. The Japanese said the Russians had told them they would carry out missile tests around disputed islands in the Hokkaido region this week. The Italian authorities have seized around 2 tons of cocaine that was found floating off the coast of Sicily in one of the country's largest ever finds of illegal drugs. Police say around 70 waterproof packages were held together by fishing nets and equipped with luminous signalling devices. They're worth around $440 million. BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
Now to end the news, a recap of the highlights. Today is nomination day for the local government elections scheduled for June 12. The Working People's Alliance says division in the People's National Congress reform is affecting the struggle to confront the governing People's Progressive Party. In neighboring Suriname, a group of Kenyans who was awaiting deportation from neighboring Suriname has fled. And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's trip to Beijing has made it clear that he is counting on China to revive the South American country's ailing industrial sector. And across in Trinidad, a fight between rival gangs has occurred as the country prepares to hold a 2-day CARICOM symposium on crime being deemed a public health issue. In the diaspora, an 82-year-old man died in a house fire in Queens early Sunday morning. And Canada is investing millions of dollars in reading, writing, math skills. That's the end of the news, which came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
More information, more entertainment, more radio. I'm Thomas Singh, and this is News Talk Radio Guyana.
7:21 on the Monday morning, 17th of April, 2023. Barry Manilow. This one's called Mandy. If your name is Mandy, well, hello to you.
I remember all my life raining down as cold as ice, shadows of a man, a face through a window, crying in the night. The night goes into morning, just another day. Happy people pass my way.